Hi, beautiful people. Welcome to the Fort Salem Library, where we read you your fanfiction. So sit down or don't, relax or don't, and enjoy these stories in a way you have not before. We at Fort Salem Library do not own Motherland Fort Salem or any of the related characters. The Motherland Fort Salem series is created by Elliot Lawrence and owned by Freeform. This story is a work of fanfiction and is meant for entertainment only. We are not making any profit from these stories. All rights of the original Motherland Fort Salem story belong to Freeform. We also do not own Little Bat Pup, or any of its original characters and storylines. We did, however, get permission from the author to read their story. This story was created and written by Johannes_motivational_insults, and you can find the link in our show notes. This story is being read to you by me, Britt. Little Bat Pup, Chapter 5. Telly is writhing, sweating, strangling Nicta's hands in her grip as her broken moans fill the air. It's the first time that's ever been a bad thing. It's okay, Telly, Nicta assures her, fighting to keep her voice calm and be the anchor her wife needs her to be right now. Never mind that every one of Tally's screams rips a little bit more of her soul from her body, leaving jagged wounds of guilt in their wake. Keep breathing, she's almost here. One more big push, Sarah urges her from the other side of the bed. I know it hurts, but you can do this, Craven. Nicta's eyes snap over, settling on Sarah in a withering glare. It takes all her self-control not to tell Sarah to shut the fuck up, that she has no clue what this feels like and never will. She already kind of wanted to murder her for supporting Tally in the whole natural birth endeavor, instead of talking some goddamn sense into her, and now in the throes of Tally's labor, she's on the verge of throttling the woman. No one gets to fucking hurt her wife, and that includes helping her hurt herself. But no. With these army types suffering as a fucking contest, a way to pile up virtue points and prove just how much they can endure. Nicta hates it. Hates the way they romanticize pain and sacrifice, and has never hated it more than today. Make no mistake, she's also pissed at Tally. She fucking offered to link with her, to take some of the pain for herself. But her wife is the most stubborn fucking woman on the planet, and she was determined to do it all on her own, like it's a fucking rite of passage to motherhood or some shit. Never mind that it's Nicta's baby too, as she should really have an equal share of the suffering, given she had an equal share of the fun part. Yes, she finds the whole ordeal of childbirth horrifying, but Nicta would rather rip her uterus out with her bare hands than ever have to feel this helpless again. Not since the martyrdom has anything she had a hand in felt so completely out of her control. Oh good, another reason to be pissed at Sarah. Growling under her breath, Nicta refocuses on Tally, giving her hand a solid squeeze. Hey, look at me, Tal, she demands calmly. It takes a couple seconds, but once Tally's wild, glazed brown eyes seem to get her somewhat in focus, she squeezes again and holds her gaze resolutely. You got this. And we got you. Let's bring our little girl home. Tally nods. The movement's jerky and shallow but determined. Her face screws up suddenly as the next contraction hits, and she squeezes Nicta's hand so hard it's sure to bruise as another scream rips from her throat. All Nicta can do is hold on for dear life as Sarah and the midwife urge Tally to push, 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 push. A new voice pierces the air, wailing in protest as its owner is ripped from its home. Her home. Tally falls back with a whimper of relief, but Nicta stiffens at the sound, eyes snapping over to evaluate. Their baby is shuddering, arms flailing in the sudden cold, but the nurse almost immediately cradles her in a blanket. The doctor makes quick work of the umbilical cord, and the nurse finishes wrapping her up, swaddling tight and whispering quiet assurances. The wails die down significantly, and suddenly Nicta's shoulders droop as a rush of air leaves her lungs. Her head light and body heavy as the adrenaline rush recedes. Suddenly Tally's hand is the only thing keeping her on her feet. Another whimper from Tally snaps her back to her senses. Her work here is not done. Steadying herself on the edge of the bed, she leans in and presses her lips to Tally's temple. Shh, shh. she whispers against her ear, lifting a shaky hand to stroke her hair. She's beautiful, Tal. She's beautiful, just like her mother. Mothers, Sarah says. Another rush of air leaves Nicta's lungs as she pulls back, finding Sarah's eyes across the bed. The look on her face is one of pure pride and affection, sending a surge of warmth through Nicta's body. Maybe the hormones are making her weak, but she reaches out and squeezes Sarah's hand. Sarah squeezes back. Ready? Asked the midwife, stepping up with a squirming bundle of blankets in hand. Yes, says Telly, her excitement shining through despite some lingering disorientation. Nicta and Sarah help her sit up straight, and she takes their daughter in her arms, eyes lighting up as she's struck by love at first sight. Oh, hi there, little one. Nicta's grin is so painful she thinks her cheek might split wide open if she doesn't look away. Telly's cooing over the wriggling newborn, face melting the way it does. Her eyes flick up to Nicta's, so full of love and adoration, and Nicta can't do anything but kiss her. You did it, Nicta whispers against her lips. We did it, counters Tally. Nicta huffs her disagreement, but doesn't voice it. Tally already knows the isolation she's feeling and is trying to soothe it, and she can't begrudge her that. Shifting instead to kiss Tally's hairline, Nicta cups her skull and murmurs, I'm so proud of you. She won't go so far as to validate the unnecessary suffering, but that much is true. She is proud. Not of the pain, but of the process. Tally didn't just push a baby out of her body, which is crazy enough. She carried their child inside of her for 9 months, nourishing and protecting her and giving her everything she needed to grow. Now it's Nicta's turn. It's time for Daddy to step up. She can't fucking wait. Telly's smile is blinding as they pull apart, and Nicta vaguely wonders if she has ever been happier in her life. Maybe in that moment when their hands were bound with cord, conch water coursing over their wrists, and cementing their union. That's the only memory that compares. It's a memory Nicta will always treasure, but even that pales in comparison. It was the moment she became Tally's wife, but now they've become a family. There will be no tearing them apart now, ever. I'm proud of me too, says Tally, her goofy grin triggering a laugh that rattles through Nicta's bones, flushing out the residual tension and shivers. Yeah, that's her fucking wife. You're an idiot, she says as she catches her breath. I love you. I love you too, says Tally, a satisfied smirk on her face. The bundle of blankets wriggles then with a restless whimper, and she looks down, bobbing it in her arms. Oh, shush, I haven't forgotten about you, she scolds playfully. Just having a moment with Mama. She cocks an eyebrow at Nicta. Or Daddy. Nicta rolls her eyes, ignoring the sudden rush of blood to her cheeks. Either or, depends on my mood. So what is your mood right now? Presses Tally. Nicta doesn't say a word, but her blush must speak for itself. Or maybe Tally truly is a mind reader. A knowing smirk comes over her face and she nods slowly, deliberately. Okay, she says. Daddy it is. For all the times Nicta has shifted, her face has never been hotter in her life. Lucky for her, Sarah provides a timely distraction. Have you two settled on a name yet? We have, declares Tally, beaming proudly. Tally has, disputes Nicta, throwing her wife some serious side-eye. Smile not dampened in the slightest, Tally retorts. You know you love it. Yeah, mutters Nicta, scratching her cheek as they flare up again. Don't you think it suits her? Coos Tally, looking from infant to mother, father. Nicta humps pensively, giving her wife a cheeky grin. I don't know. Might need to see her up close to be sure. Tally giggles and humors her, handing over the bundle. Nicta takes it carefully and straightens up, holding her daughter to her chest, wandering to the window for better light. She beams down at that beautiful face. Their daughter's hair is dark like Nicta's, but she has Tally's slimmer face and chocolate brown eyes. Well, dark chocolate maybe. They're a shade duskier than Tally's. Nicta's influence, no doubt. It's amazing how she looks so much like both of them already. Nicta sticks out a finger, and the infant grabs it with surprising strength, gripping tight with those stubby fingers and tiny half-moon nails. Yeah, it does suit her. Perfectly. Grinning like an idiot, Nicta presses a kiss to her daughter's forehead. Hey there, little Luna. Tally squeals, and Sarah gives them both a questioning look. Luna? Because I am the night, gushes Tally, eyes bright and gooey and so beautiful. Nicta rolls her eyes, once again failing not to blush. Tally lives to annoy me. It's mutual, Tally assures her with a playful glare. I live to annoy Sarah, actually, Nicta retorts, grinning wolfishly. That earns her a dirty look from both of them, pretty much all she wants out of life. Her daughter shifts in her arms, whining briefly before erupting in a wail, and a new wave of adrenaline hits. Oh shit, what do I do? Nicta asks no one in particular, holding the bundle away from her slightly as the arm starts to flail. Help? Pretty sure she wants mommy, Sarah remarks, her voice flat but lip curling with amusement. She just wants my titties, deadpans Tally, already unsnapping the front of her gown. Who doesn't want your titties? Quips Nicta. Her eyes immediately flick to the peanut gallery and she adds, Shut up, Sarah. Sarah zips her lips, but is very clearly smirking as Nicta hands Luna over to Tally. In fact, Tally's boobs become the center of everyone's attention at that point, the midwife stepping in to talk her through the latching process and how to coax the baby into it. Before long, the little one is feeding, fisting a handful of her mother's red hair. It's the most beautiful thing Nicta's seen in her life. Nicta doesn't get another chance to hold her daughter until several hours later, well after nightfall. Luna has latched onto Tally in more ways than one, and Tally is completely taken by her and in no hurry to let go. That's a good quality to have in a mother, obviously. But Nicta may be feeling a little bit of the daddy blues. They've been home maybe 15 minutes when she's finally found an opportunity. Tally got settled in their bed upon arrival, propped up against the headboard to let her hungry baby have another go at her milk bags, while Nicta started scurrying around putting things away and making sure everything was set in the nursery. When she comes back to plug in their half of the baby monitor in the bedroom, she finds Tally passed out cold, the infant lazily sucking her chest halfway gone as well. The sight makes Nicta's heart swell, ooey gooey feeling staring in her chest and nearly breaking her face again. Putting the monitor aside for now, she worms her hands under Luna's body and gently pulls her away, soothing her whimpers by cradling her against her own chest and rocking gently. Standing there swaying, Nicta hesitates briefly as she considers what to do with Tally. She doesn't want to just leave her like that, but she also doesn't want to disturb her when she was in labor for over 24 hours and awake through the night. Hemming and hawing briefly, Nicta grabs an extra blanket off a nearby chair and drapes it over her wife's torso, tucking her in gently. You did good today, Red, she whispers, pressing a kiss to her forehead. I love you. Tally's nose crinkles slightly, but otherwise she doesn't respond, completely dead to the world. Nicta chuckles and turns her attention to the squirmy, sleepy infant in the crook of her arm, popping a pacifier in her mouth and tiptoeing out of the bedroom. Easing the door shut behind her, Nicta wanders out into the house, still swaying with every step. A clinking sound draws her attention and she moseys back to the kitchen where Sarah has apparently decided to do their dishes. Usually they're pretty good about keeping stuff clean, but Tally went into labor in the middle of cooking dinner last night. They've been kind of preoccupied. Sensing Nicta's presence, Sarah looks up and smiles at the sight of her and Luna. It's that same proud, affectionate smile Nicta remembers from the hospital, and it turns her already mushy insides to jelly. She always wanted someone to look at her like that. Sarah was the first. How sad is that? Now that Nicta thinks about it, the look is familiar. She remembers a similar expression surfacing on the general's usually impassive face during their third practice session in Liberia, when she showed her a small tweak she'd made to the working to fine-tune the aim, make it a targeted weapon rather than an indiscriminate bomb. Sarah gave her that look, and in that moment Nicta was powerless not to kiss her. More than kiss her. That look of pride, that feeling of being valued. It was all she'd ever wanted, and she lost herself in it. It's almost embarrassing to think about now. It's pretty obvious in hindsight that the general was a salve for Nicta's mommy's issues as well as her general insecurity and loneliness, which when she thinks about, is a little fucked up. Not on Sarah's part so much, mostly on hers. Oedipus complex, anyone? You're a natural, Sarah remarks, pulling her from her thoughts. I try, Nicta says flatly, fighting a grin as she dips her head to check on Luna. Holding her just a little bit tighter, she crosses to Sarah and leans back against the counter. You don't have to do that, she says, giving their godmother a grateful smile. You can go home, Sarah. I am home, Sarah assures her, mirroring her smile. Then hers slips, alarm overtaking her eyes as she catches her misstep. Not, she winces apologetically. I don't mean I belong here, just that I feel at home. You do belong here, Nicta says. The words surprise her as much as Sarah, but she doesn't let it show. Instead, she smiles, giving her a nod of assurance. Stay as long as you want. Really? Sarah asks quietly, eyes wide and soft. Goddess, there's that vulnerability again. It not only turns Nicta's insides to mush, it lights them on fire. How she lived for that look, craved that softness she'd earned as Sarah went pliant beneath her, eyes rolling back and nails digging into her triceps. Nicta hums a little too cheerily in an attempt to mask her thoughts. She needs to get her goddamn head out of the gutter. Noticing Sarah's gaze has shifted to the slumbering infant in her arms, it occurs to her that as much as she was deprived of this contact today, Sarah hasn't had any at all. You want to hold her? Please, Sarah all but begs, the words coming out in a sheepish rush of air. Nicta tries and fails not to blink of other ways to procure that sound. They move to the table, Sarah getting settled in a chair before Nicta bends down and gently places Luna in her arms. The infant squirms and whimpers a little bit at the change, but Sarah isn't deterred, shushing her softly and rocking her in a smooth, gentle rhythm. It takes mere moments for the fidgeting to cease, Luna settling into her godmother's touch and turning her face into her chest as she slips back under. Nicta moves to stand behind Sarah, resting a hand on her shoulder as she peeks over it for a better look. The kid is out cold. Nicta's almost jealous of how easy that was. Eyebrow arching, she remarks, I think you're the natural. Sarah looks up just long enough to throw Nicta a knowing smirk. I know I don't seem like the mothering type, she deadpans, but I've had many centuries to practice holding babies. Yeah, Nicta scoffs. We know you're old and wise. How could we forget? Her eyes fall to Luna, but the hand on Sarah's shoulder holds most of her attention. Thumb brushing over the swell of her deltoid, Nicta murmurs, Bones like rubber, right? Nicta snorted into Sarah's chest, palm flattening on the expanse of exposed skin. It was hot to the touch, slick and fragrant with sweat from the jungle heat and a recent exertion alike. Honestly, she said, the best part of being deployed is not being harassed by that bitch. Sarah chuckled beneath her, the deep, soothing rumble making her eyes slip shut. And here I thought it was spending time in my bed. You're right, Nicta mused, a cheeky grin sprouting on her lips. Those thin bedrolls just don't cut it anymore. Sarah huffed, swatting her ass through the sheet. Brat. Tell me something I don't know, sweetheart, deadpanned Nicta. Sarah huffed again, but it was a decidedly flustered sound this time, turning her smirk all the smugger. A quiet moment passed, Sarah's finger casually toying with a chain of Nicta's metal. Finally, she inquired, You really hate the Imperatrix that much? I don't hate her, Nicta clarified with an eye roll. She just makes me really uncomfortable. Trying to set me up with all these dudes so I can fulfill my obligations? Gross. I don't want something growing inside of me. Sarah tensed slightly beneath her, fingers stilling. Don't you want to carry on your line? Sighing in exasperation, Nicta pushed up on her elbow, looking Sarah in the eye. Come on, Sarah. Can you imagine me with a baby? I don't know what to do with them. I'd break the damn thing. Babies are babies, Nick, Sarah says flatly, lips twitching faintly in amusement. They're all kind of the same and surprisingly resilient. Their bones are like rubber. Eyes flitting away, Nicta muttered. Yeah, that's not what I meant. There was a brief lull before Sarah gently grasped Nicta's chin, turning her face back her way. Her gaze was soft, inquisitive. You don't think you're the mothering type. Do you? Scoffed Nicta. Her eyes dropped, fingertips tracing an idle pattern in Sarah's cleavage. Look, she confessed. I don't know much about how moms are supposed to act. If it's anything like my mom, I could pull it off. But I don't want to put a child through that. Setting her head back down with a sigh, she muttered, Maybe I could be a mother, but I wouldn't be a very good one. Nonsense. The tenacity of Sarah's tone made Nicta's eyes jump up, finding her determined ones. The general caressed Nicta's face, a look of warmth and admiration on her own. You have such a strong caretaker instinct, Nicta, she told her. A protector instinct. You're exactly like a mother in the wild. Nicta chuckled, blinking away at the sting in her eyes and hoping Sarah wouldn't notice. Like a mama bear? I was thinking mama wolf, maybe. Sarah mused with a smirk. She continued to gaze at Nicta, grazing a finger up and down her jawbone. I understand why you're nervous, she sympathized. It's a lot to take on. But if you ever decide to go through with it, I know you'll make a wonderful mother. Nicta was powerless not to kiss her in that moment, too. That's right, Sarah replies, smirking up at Nicta in a way that says she remembers too. Lips softening slightly, she adds, Resilient, just like you. Nicta huffs, eyes rolling away. That's one word for it. It's true, insists Sarah. When Nicta meets her gaze again, she gives her lips a guilty twitch. I just wish I wasn't one of the things she had to survive. Nicta wishes that too. She wishes Sarah didn't invoke such a confusing mess of emotions within her. But she can't deny that mess has been changing as of late, shifting in a calmer, warmer direction. And with Sarah sitting there, holding her baby, and looking like a fucking goddess of motherhood or some shit, Nicta can't bring herself to focus on the negatives. Goddess, she's so gay. Fighting off her blush, Nicta answers her as a casual shrug. Water under the bridge. Sarah smirks up at her. Uh-oh, motherhood's making you soft. Shit, you're right, says Nicta, her eyes narrowing playfully. I take it back. She reaches down for Luna and Sarah leans forward, blocking her with her back, swiveling and giggling when Nicta tries to reach around. And wow, when has she ever heard Sarah Alder giggle? Sober, anyway. Maybe the woman really is evolving with the weight of the world off her shoulders. It's tempting to tickle Sarah's exposed flanks, but Nicta doesn't want to rouse the baby or roughhouse in her vicinity. Accepting her defeat with a sigh, she straightens up and puts her hands on Sarah's other shoulder this time, forearm brushing the baby hairs on her neck. I know you'll be good to her, Nicta admits quietly. Her thumb brushes Sarah's shoulder, catching on the collar of her blouse. Second chances, right? Sarah looks over her shoulder again, her smile relieved but harboring a wry quirk. I don't know, this kind of feels like a first, she remarks, eyes flicking down to Luna and Beck. Nicta can't argue with that. Sarah raises an eyebrow, her gaze compassionate yet somehow cutting straight through her. Are you still scared? Mouth twitching with a tiny scoff, Nicta mutters, Shitless. Don't be, Sarah says quietly, her tone at once commanding and reassuring. Giving Nicta a faint smile, she turns back to Luna, watching the baby's face as she continues to rock her. Ramshorn's told me all about what a patient teacher you are, how committed you were to caring for your people, she murmurs. You're going to be fine, more than fine. Ignoring the stirring in her chest, Nicta shrugs off the unwarranted confidence and swallows a lump surfacing in her throat. I also have Tally to balance me out, she jokes. Suppose it can't get that bad. Snorting under her breath, Sarah remarks, More like Tally has you to balance her out. Nicta chuckles. Yeah, that too. Sarah gathers the bundle a little bit tighter to her chest, fingers hooking in the blanket. Nicta can't see more than a sliver of her face, but the affection in Sarah's tone is as clear as her crystal eyes when she says, "She's gonna be one tough witch." "That she is," murmurs Nicta, hand reflectively squeezing the shoulder in its grip. Sarah reacts in kind, leaning into Nicta just a little and letting her head tip to rest against her ribs. Nicta sighs at the contact, fingers absentmindedly trailing up Sarah's neck and into her hair. Only when they catch in the fold of her braid does Nicta's good sense kick back in, warning her to be careful with this one. She knows better. Pulling her hand back with a sigh, Nicta gives Sarah's shoulder a parting pat and says, "She's content now. I think I'll finish those dishes." Then she walks away before she does something stupid, like kiss her. Please find the fanfiction you just listened to on Archive of Our Own, and leave the author some love. Without them, this wouldn't be possible, and we want to thank them from the bottoms of our hearts for creating these amazing stories and keeping the show alive.